Come on the camera. Come on the camera. Come. Come. Okay, go out. She's a bit camera shy, I think. So I'll show you what I've done so far. Let me get up from my beautiful position, seated on the floor by the bath, which was the best place I could find to actually show my face and the silk at the same time. So now that the salt is working, I want to dry it as quickly as possible, otherwise you lose some of those patterns. I'm hoping I can bring it close enough that you can see some of the patterns that are emerging. The rock salt, I'll use that box on the side of the bath to rest the frame on. Hello, it's Durga Mata, and I'm in my studio bathroom. Just did my meditation, and guess who came to sit on my lap? It was Sherpa. And Sherpa got her name because when she was a kitten, she didn't like to be on the ground. She was always climbing. So that's why she got called Sherpa. Here, give the camera a look. Come on, show your face to the camera. Show your face to the camera. Yay, like that. Oh, you're beautiful. You're beautiful. You're sweet and beautiful. Come on then. Jump down. There you go. I'm getting up now, so you have to jump down. That's it. And now I'll show you what's the next stage of my silk painting. I've had it drying all afternoon, and the salt's on it. Can you see the patterns? So the next stage will be to shake the salt off and cut it free from the frame, and then start cutting individual doves out the right size to be mounted on the cards. Now, I think you can see I have brushed all the salt off. Not necessarily all of it, but most of it. So now it's ready to come off the frame and start to be turned into cards. Here comes the scissors. I'm going to cut the bottom one first. So I'm going along the bottom, cutting the threads that are fastening it to the bottom of the frame. It's Habitory 8 silk. It's quite a thick weight of silk, which is why I've put the gutter on both sides this time to cut down on the amount of leakage. I don't think actually there's been any leakage. Where you get some of the wings have got colour on, some of the doves, sides of the dove have got colour on, is because I was doing it quite quickly with a pipette, and occasionally the pipette touched over the edge of the gutter. I wasn't doing it really carefully with a brush. I was doing it standing up, leaning over, not sitting and concentrating in a controlled way that I would for painting where the edges and the lines needed to be absolutely precise. And I actually think that where it leaks is almost a feature of the design. It's not a mistake. So here we go. We've got the silk free now from the frame. And I'll take that downstairs, make sure it's properly dry, and then cut out the individual doves. Hello, it's Durga Mata, and this is Misty. She's another of the sisters, the Tabby sisters. And she likes to come on my, not just on my lap, but on my laptop if I'm using the computer. So she's just come to investigate because I've sat down on the sofa where they were sleeping, and I've brought the silk with me that I've been painting in the bathroom studio, and I'm going to start cutting. As you can see, I'm using a card as a guide. I've got to cover the hole, the aperture, which is where the dove will show. And there's an overlap each side. So I bring it about like that, and then fold it over and hold it tight, and cut along the edge to get the depth that I need. Misty just readjusting herself. I'll show you. Misty's here and also Lupin's here. Lupin is the third sister, the Misty, Lupin and Sherpa. And they think this is their bed. It's actually my sofa, but I have it well covered because I do not want cat hairs on the smart sofa in my sitting room. So I have it covered with quilts and blankets and things to protect it from the ravages of the cats. It's actually my mum's best sofa. I've got her whole three-piece suite in this room, and her dining table. But they only get uncovered when I've got guests. And when I'm doing the painting in my bathroom studio, it would be a liability. If this was an actual silk dress or silk scarf that I was making, I would have to steam the silk to fix the dyes. As it is, if I washed it now, a lot of the dye would come out. You wouldn't get the patterns or anything left. Some parts would just go completely white again, depending on the power of the dye, whether it stains without fixing. Most of them won't stay in the silk unless they're steamed to fix them. So here we have the first strip of Peace, Justice, Doves for Gaza. Here again I'm going way too close to that one below to adjust it here. It's got a nice bit of green left on it. I use a company called Silk Craft. They're based up in Derby and I've been using them for years, so I'm good friends with the manageress. I order nearly every month because I use silk painting in my workshops. I do monthly workshops in Richmond Borough, which are to reduce stress and increase resilience. So we do silk painting, mindfulness, forest bathing, live music, a bit of dance, and a vegetarian feast, healthy food, and a lot of positive social contact, which is really important for health and well-being as well. I like a mixture, but the majority of people are actually refugees. So my business is a community interest company, and there's a free price point in solidarity with refugees at my workshops, so nobody can be worried about the stress levels being related to money preventing them from coming to the workshop, because there's the free solidarity with refugees option that anybody can choose for a 5 hours mini retreat guaranteed to reduce your stress and build resilience. And the average stress reduction, self-assessed before and after, is 38%. It's nearly done now. Do you see this coming along the bottom edge now? And these end bits I'm going to make into cards with a heart on. Just draw the heart with the gold gutter. And lots of people like hearts. I might even... Right. Separate out the last one. So that's got some lovely patterns on it. Misty, Misty good girl. Misty good girl. Such a good girl. Can you see Lupin as well? Lupin. Lupin's the only one of the three sisters who's got white feet. You can see her white feet. Okay. That's all for now. I'm going to try steaming one of the strips of silk to see if it's able to be fixed without losing all the colours. Okay, here's the next bit of the puzzle to create my beautiful peace and justice cards. The first thing I did was to stretch the silk on a frame. Then I mapped out where I needed to draw the little peace doves, peace and justice doves, and I outlined them with gutter. Then I turned the whole thing over and I outlined them with gutter on the other side as well, so that the dye won't leak and bleed underneath the gutter so much as it did when I only did it on one side. So then I painted it, and I didn't have a black silk dye, so I used ink. And can you see it's come out rather dark? So then I was experimenting. I got some tissues and I wet it where the black was and I dabbed it, and I got quite a lot of the black out. So that was on this one. And having got some of the black out, I sprayed the whole thing with water and steamed it wet for 3.5 minutes. I knew that I would lose a lot of the patterning like that, because as soon as it's wet, the dye runs. And it did. I lost a lot of the patterning, but I got rid of a lot of the black, because when I washed it after it had been steamed, and the silk dyes are fixed by the steaming, when I washed it, most of the black ink went out, and you began to be able to see that there is some green where it had been completely black underneath. So I'm quite pleased with the result. It's not anything except experimental at this stage, but I'm quite pleased with the result. And the next thing is to cover it with tissues, because the gold silk gutter may be spoiled by the iron. So cover it with the tissues and iron it dry so that I can turn it into cards. So that's ironed. You can see how the gold is tending to stick to the paper. A little bit coming off there. The gold gutter doesn't like being ironed. And then this side, cover it over again, iron it, lift off the tissue. You can see the little bit of gold is getting stuck to the tissue each time. But that won't affect the actual design now. And I'll just do it once more. Turn it over because I don't want the gold sticking to the arm either. And now that is ready to be cut and glued to the card, and I've got the spray glue, so I'll be doing that next. Okay, the next thing I want to show you, these are where I've cut out the actual silk that you saw on the frame without any alteration, and you can see I've chosen the ones, let's see if I can show you, where the salt patterning is particularly well developed. So here I'll show you the ones which had more black. So what I've done, I've sponged some of the black off, and you can see this colour beginning to come through where I sponged it off. But I've kept the salt patterning. I think you can see it better on that side because it's really nice. Here's another one where I've sponged off some of the black and kept the silk patterning here, salt patterning, not silk patterning, salt patterning. And here's another one. This one's quite nicely coloured, and you can see a bit of the salt patterning there. You can see some nice salt patterning here and here, and I've sponged some of the black off here and here to bring the other colours forward and make it not so stiff, because the black ink is actually quite stiff, it dries quite stiff. So then there were some where there was a lot of black, so I took a risk and sprayed them with water and put them through the steamer as though I'd made them, put them in the microwave to steam them, as though I'd made them freshly and they were wet. They weren't wet, but I put them through, and you can actually see on this one it's kept some of the salt patterning. Most of them, the blacks washed out, or most of the blacks washed out because it was ink, it hadn't fixed. The steaming didn't fix the ink, but there are still some shadows of the black there, so it's not like it's completely lost its black quality. Here's another one. You can see fascinating patterns here. That's where in the steamer some water's dripped onto it, so you've got the water dripping patterns as well as the salt patterns. Again, some of the water patterning, and I don't think that one will come on the card, but it's really pretty. And this one with its patterning here, and most of the black's washed out, but it's still got enough black to be genuinely, authentically Palestine colours. So that is the next stage, and now I'm going to start cutting them and making them into cards. Okay, the next thing I want to show you, these are where I've cut out the actual silk that you saw on the frame without any alteration, and you can see I've chosen the ones, let's see if I can show you, where the salt patterning is particularly well developed. And here's another one. This one's quite nicely coloured, and you can see a bit of the salt patterning there. I've sponged some of the black off. You can see the green is coming back through, and the reddish is coming back through here where it was completely black. So that worked quite well. Here's another one. You can see fascinating patterns here. That's where in the steamer some water's dripped onto it, so you've got the water dripping patterns as well as the salt patterns. And I don't think that one will come on the card, but it's really pretty. And this one with its patterning here, and most of the black's washed out, but it's still got enough black to be genuinely, authentically Palestine colours. Got a starry pattern in the sky, and here, strengthening the green, it was all covered over here. Some of that black's washed out, and look at the starry patterns on this one. It's absolutely beautiful. And we have got a little bit of the little shadow of the salt patterning still on some of the parts, but I think they've got their own authentic beauty. So I'm going to stop that now. Hello again. It's Dogamata here, and it's midnight. It just turned into Tuesday. I think it's the 17th of December, and two of my tabby cats are fast asleep. And then we've got my ironing table and the silk ready for turning into cards that I've been ironing. You see the patterns from the salt, and there's also patterns from the where I've washed some of them I showed you earlier. Lots of patterns, and my shadow getting in the way.